My wife cheated on me with our neighbor. Then after I found out, she secretly transferred our $250, $0 savings into her sister's name, and now she's claiming I'm the one trying to steal everything. What the hell is happening? I never thought I'd be one of those guys who gets like this, but here I am. It all started with little things, small signs that I brushed off at first. My wife Lisa had always been a bit of a drama queen, but lately she'd been more distant, more irritable. She'd come home late from work, excuse herself with some story about deadlines or stress, but I could tell something was off. I noticed her phone was always locked and she'd hide it whenever I got close. She'd also start wearing more makeup, dressing differently, more revealing, like she was trying to turn heads. One night I caught her sneaking her phone into the bathroom when she thought I wasn't looking. I didn't want to be that guy who goes snooping, but curiosity got the better of me. I peeked at her messages and saw nothing at first, just the usual work stuff, a few flirtatious texts from her. But then I noticed a series of messages from our neighbor Mark that didn't sit right. They were mostly innocuous at first, but then I saw messages that hinted at something more, plans to meet up late at night, flirtatious emojis, and even some talk about doing something special next weekend. I felt my stomach drop. I didn't want to believe it, but the signs were stacking up. I started paying closer attention. One evening, I saw Lisa sneaking out of the house after I went to bed. I followed her carefully and saw her get into Mark's car. They drove off together and I followed at a distance. They went to a motel. I watched from a dark corner, heart pounding, as they disappeared inside. That was the moment I knew she was cheating on me with Mark. The next day I confronted her. I didn't want to, but I couldn't keep pretending. I found her in the kitchen making coffee, acting like everything was normal. I dropped the bomb. "Lisa, I know what you've been doing. I saw you with Mark last night." Her face twisted into a look of annoyance, then quickly into a fake smile. "Oh, come on. It's not what you think, you're overreacting. We're just friends, you're paranoid." I was furious, but I kept my cool. "Friends don't sneak out at night and meet at motels," I said. Her lie was so obvious. She rolled her eyes and tried to brush it off, claiming I was jealous and insecure. But I wasn't about to buy it. I needed to dig deeper. I started checking her phone, her email, her bank accounts. That's when I found something else that floored me. She'd secretly transferred our savings, $250, $0, into her sister's name. Just like that, she'd moved all our money without telling me. I couldn't believe it. We'd been saving for years, planning a future, and she just took it all. When I confronted her about the money, she played the victim, crying and saying I was trying to control her, that she had every right to do what she wanted. She told me I was crazy, that I was imagining things, but I knew better. I knew she was lying about everything, the affair, the money, her whole life. That's when the shock turned into anger, not just at her betrayal, but at myself for not seeing it sooner. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and utterly powerless. I'd trusted her with my life, my future, and she'd been cheating on me, stealing from me, lying straight to my face. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. All I wanted was to understand why she did it, how she could be so cold and manipulative. I kept asking myself, how did I miss all the signs? How did I let it get this far? The betrayal cut deep, and I knew I had to decide what to do next. But one thing was clear, this was not going to end quietly. I was going to fight back and get my justice. After I found out about the affair and the money transfer, everything changed. I couldn't look at Lisa the same way. The woman I married, the woman I trusted with everything, she was capable of lying, cheating, and stealing behind my back. The worst part was, she was acting like I was the one trying to screw her over. She kept insisting I was paranoid, that I was trying to control her, that I was making everything up just because I was insecure. It was infuriating. She'd lie through her teeth, throw fits, and then turn around and cry about how unfair I was being. I knew I had to do something. I started planning my next move carefully. I needed proof, real proof of what she was doing, and I needed to catch her in the act if I could. I couldn't just accuse her blindly. She'd deny everything and spin her lies even more. So I set up cameras around the house, especially in the bedroom and the living room. I knew she'd try to hide her tracks, but I needed to catch her red-handed. I also started watching her bank accounts like a hawk, tracking every transaction. The transfer of our savings was the big shocker, but I needed more evidence to make her see I wasn't fooling around. Meanwhile, Lisa kept up her act. She was bitchy, dismissive, and totally dismissive of my feelings. Every time I brought up her lying or the affair, she'd brush me off, call me insecure, or accuse me of being controlling. She'd even accuse me of trying to steal her away from Mark, which was laughable because I was just trying to keep my marriage intact. But she was relentless. She'd lie about where she was, who she was with, and even about the transfer of money. She told me she needed to protect her sister, which was the biggest load of crap I've ever heard. She said she transferred the money because her sister needed it for a business deal, but I knew better. I had the bank statements. I saw her signature on the transfer forms. It was her doing it all, and she was lying her ass off. One night, I decided I'd had enough of the lies. I confronted her again, this time more aggressively. "Lisa, I know what you're doing. I know about Mark, I know about the money. Don't even try to deny it anymore." She looked at me with those cold eyes and told me I was crazy, that I was imagining things, that I was making everything up because I was jealous. I told her I had proof, screenshots of the bank transfer, the texts, the videos from the security cameras. That's when she snapped. She started yelling, calling me all kinds of names, saying I was a control freak, that I was ruining her life. She told me I was trying to steal everything from her, that I was paranoid and delusional. The emotional toll was brutal. I felt sick, betrayed, and humiliated. I couldn't believe I married someone capable of this level of deception. I'd always thought we had a good life, a future together, but now it was all falling apart. I kept replaying the moments I missed, the signs I ignored, and I kept asking myself how I could have been so blind. I was angry at her, yes, but I was also angry at myself for trusting her so blindly for so long. I wanted to yell, to scream, to do something to make her see how much she'd hurt me, but I also knew I had to stay calm. I couldn't let her manipulate me anymore. I had the evidence and I was going to use it. I decided then that I'd confront her one last time, lay everything out on the table, and then decide what to do next. I couldn't keep living like this, living in a house filled with her lies and her betrayal. I knew I had to take control of the situation, even if it meant losing everything. I had to stand up for myself, for what was right. I couldn't let her get away with it, not without consequences. The betrayal was deep, but I was determined to fight back and get some kind of justice. The confrontation I had planned was more intense than I expected. I had all the evidence laid out, screenshots of the bank transfer, the texts between her and Mark, the security footage I managed to pull from the cameras I installed. I was ready to finally get her to admit everything, or at least break her down enough so she couldn't lie anymore. I told her to sit down, that I needed to talk. She looked annoyed, like I was bothering her, but I pushed forward. "So Lisa," I started, voice calm but firm, "I know about the affair. I know you've been sneaking around with Mark. And I know you transferred our savings, our $250, $0, into your sister's name without telling me. Why? Why did you do all this?" She rolled her eyes, crossing her arms. "You're overreacting. You're making things up like always. There's no affair. I've been working late, that's all. And the money, I transferred it because I thought it would be safer with my sister. You're always so paranoid, trying to control everything. Maybe you should get some help." I couldn't believe her lies. "Stop lying, Lisa. I have the proof. You were with Mark last night. I saw you, and the money transfer, that's real. Why did you do it? Were you planning to run away with him?" She scoffed. "I was not. You're crazy. You think I'd cheat on you and then steal from us. That's just your insecurities talking. Mark's just a neighbor, a friend. You're jealous, that's all. You're just trying to destroy what we have because you're insecure." I felt a mixture of rage and sadness. I trusted her for so long, and now I saw her for what she really was, a liar, a manipulator. I pushed the evidence closer to her face. "Look at this. The bank statements, the texts. You're lying, Lisa. You're the one who's been sneaking around, not me. And you're trying to turn this around on me, claiming I'm the one stealing from you." Her face twisted into a sneer. "You're twisting everything. You're trying to make me look bad because you're insecure and jealous. I don't know what you want from me. I've done nothing wrong." At that moment, I realized I couldn't keep pretending she'd change or that she'd admit to anything. She was committed to lying and gaslighting me. I felt a deep sense of betrayal, but also clarity. I needed to make a decision. I told her I was done playing her game, that I was leaving her that night. I told her I wanted a divorce and I wanted the truth out in the open. Her reaction was pure contempt. She spat at me, called me a control freak, and accused me of trying to ruin her life. But I was numb. I knew this wasn't just about the affair or the money anymore. It was about trust, respect, and basic honesty. I knew I had to get out of this toxic situation, but I also knew I wasn't going down without a fight. I'd already gathered enough evidence to prove her lies, her betrayal, and her manipulation. I was ready to show her that I wasn't going to be a victim of her games anymore. That night I packed a bag and left. I told her I'd be back to get my things, but I wasn't sure I wanted to come back at all. The house felt like a prison, filled with her lies and her betrayal. I felt a strange mix of relief and devastation. I was finally free from her deception, but I was also shattered inside. I'd lost my marriage, my trust, and my sense of security. The betrayal cut so deep I wasn't sure how I was going to recover from it. But I knew one thing for sure. I was done being her fool. I was done being the victim. Now I was just trying to figure out how to rebuild my life from this mess. After I left the house that night, everything changed. I stayed at my brother's place for a few days, trying to process what had happened. The house was eerily quiet without Lisa there, and every time I thought about her sneaking around with Mark, my stomach twisted. The betrayal was so raw, so unexpected. I kept waking up in the middle of the night feeling like I was drowning. I couldn't believe I'd trusted her for so long, only to find out she'd been lying and cheating the entire time. During those days, I went through all the evidence I had gathered. The bank statements, the text messages, the security footage. I couldn't believe how much she'd hidden. I was furious at myself for not noticing sooner, for ignoring the little signs. But now I had everything laid out and I knew I had to make a move. I didn't want her to get away with this. I wanted to expose her lies and get some kind of justice. I decided to meet with a lawyer. I needed legal advice on how to handle the money transfer, especially since she'd put it in her sister's name. I explained everything, the affair, the transfer, the lies, and I asked what my options were. The lawyer told me that I might have grounds to contest the transfer, especially if I could prove she did it without my consent or knowledge. She also warned me that Lisa might try to spin things around, claim I was trying to take everything from her, so I needed to be careful. But I had the evidence, and I knew I wasn't the one at fault here. While I was dealing with lawyers, Lisa started making noise. She sent me angry texts, accusing me of trying to steal her money, of being controlling, and of ruining her life. She even tried to make it seem like I was the one cheating, saying I was trying to cover up my own infidelity by throwing her under the bus. I couldn't believe her audacity. She lied about everything, and now she was gaslighting me, trying to turn the tables. One day she showed up at my brother's house, crying and begging me to come back. She said she was sorry, that she didn't mean to hurt me, that she was just stressed and made a mistake. She claimed that Mark was just a friend, that she'd never cheat on me, but I didn't buy it. I looked her straight in the eyes and told her I knew she was lying. I told her I had enough of her manipulations, that I was done being played for a fool. I told her I was filing for divorce and taking legal action to get back what was mine. That moment was a turning point. I realized I couldn't keep living in her shadow, with her lies hanging over my head. I needed to focus on rebuilding myself, on reclaiming my life. I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and relief. Anger because she betrayed me so badly. Sadness because I still loved her, even now. Relief because I finally saw her for what she was. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to get through it. In the days that followed, I contacted a financial advisor to help me unravel the mess with the money transfer. I also started documenting everything: texts, emails, my conversations with lawyers. I wanted to be prepared for whatever legal battles lay ahead. I knew Lisa was going to fight me tooth and nail, trying to spin her lies and make me look like the bad guy. But I had the truth on my side, and I was ready to fight for what was rightfully mine. I refused to let her get away with this level of deception, not without facing some consequences. My trust was shattered, but I was determined to rebuild my life, one step at a time. The legal process dragged on, and I quickly realized how deep Lisa's deception ran. She was fighting me every step of the way, claiming I was trying to steal her money, that I was a controlling monster who was just jealous of her freedom. She even brought her sister into the mix, claiming I was trying to manipulate her into giving me my share of the savings. It was infuriating. She spun stories, lied in court documents, and did everything possible to muddy the waters. Meanwhile, I was trying to keep my emotions in check. Every day was a battle between anger and sadness. I kept asking myself how someone I loved could turn into someone so manipulative and cold. I'd trusted her, built a life with her, and now she was doing everything in her power to ruin me. The betrayal cut so deep I often wondered if I'd ever be able to trust again. But I also knew I had to stay strong for myself, for my future. The worst part was watching her try to turn me into the villain. She claimed I was trying to steal her money, that I was trying to control her, that I was the one cheating all along. She played the victim so well, crying in court, claiming she'd been forced into a corner. Her lies were so elaborate I'm pretty sure she believed some of them herself, but I had the receipts. I had the proof of her affair, the bank transfer, the texts. I was ready to fight her lies with facts. One day I finally got a break. The lawyer managed to get a court order to freeze the transfer of the money into her sister's name. It wasn't enough to recover everything, but it was a start. I also filed for divorce, citing her infidelity and financial misconduct. It was the hardest decision I'd ever made, but I knew I couldn't stay in a marriage built on lies and betrayal. I needed to get out and start rebuilding my life. Throughout this process, I also worked on myself. I started seeing a therapist to deal with the emotional toll. I realized I'd been so that I'd ignored the signs, suppressed my feelings, and stayed in denial for far too long. But now I was finally facing the truth head-on. I was angry, yes, but I was also determined. I wanted justice, not just for the money, but for myself. I deserved to be with someone who was honest, who respected me, who didn't lie and cheat behind my back. Looking back, I learned a lot from this nightmare. Trust is fragile, and betrayal can come from the people you least expect. I also learned that you have to fight for what's yours, your dignity, your money, your peace of mind. I may have lost my marriage, but I gained clarity. I gained strength. And I now know that I can survive even the worst betrayals if I stay true to myself. I don't think I'll ever forget what happened, but I also know I'll come out stronger on the other side. The court case finally wrapped up, and I managed to get a partial victory. The judge ordered Lisa to return the money she transferred into her sister's name, citing clear evidence of her deceit and betrayal. It wasn't the full amount, she'd already spent some, and her sister claimed she needed the money for legitimate reasons. But at least I got recognition that I wasn't the one trying to steal or control. It was a small win, but it felt like a huge weight off my shoulders. After everything, I moved out of the house. I needed space, time to heal, and to rebuild my sense of self. I rented a small apartment nearby, just enough to start over. Lisa's calls and messages stopped after a while, which was a relief. I didn't want to hear her lies or her manipulative apologies anymore. I realized that trust, once broken, is almost impossible to repair, and I didn't want to waste my energy on someone who had lied so blatantly. The hardest part was accepting that I'd lost the marriage I thought I had. I still loved her even now, but I knew I couldn't stay in a relationship built on deception. I had to accept that sometimes love isn't enough, especially when it's betrayed so thoroughly. I learned that sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is to walk away, no matter how painful it is. Now I focus on rebuilding my life. I've started saving again, more cautiously this time. I've also begun dating cautiously, trying to trust again. It's not easy, but I know I need to move forward. The betrayal taught me that I have to be more vigilant, more aware, and most importantly, more careful about who I let into my life. Not everyone is honest, and not everyone deserves your trust. Looking back, I realize I grew stronger because of this nightmare. I learned that standing up for myself, fighting for what's right, and refusing to be a victim can get you through the darkest times. I understand now that sometimes you have to lose everything to find yourself again, and I'm choosing to see this as a new beginning, not just a story of betrayal, but a story of resilience. If there's one thing I'd tell anyone going through something similar, it's this: don't ignore the signs, trust your gut, and when someone shows you who they really are, believe them. Because in the end, your worth isn't measured by how much someone else can lie or steal from you. It's about how you pick yourself up afterward. I've still got a lot of healing to do, but I know I'll be okay. I have to be.